Hello. So, wrong again, I was about the equinox. I don't know why I can't get it right this year. It's funny. I thought it was going to be today, but the equinox is not like the solstices. It occurs on like a rotating basis, and it hasn't been on the 21st of September for millions of years, apparently. I looked it up because I was confused. It's on Saturday. It's the 23rd this year, and it just means, like summer solstice with the longest day of light, winter solstice being the shortest day. We have these in March and September to be the days where the nights and the daylights are equal. So, realizing that, I was like, oh, well, I'll just wait to do my reading until Saturday, but I did have a couple collective messages come in for today. So I wanted to share those and then do a quick spread, and I'm going to be using the Prisma Visions Tarot, and I've talked about this in the past as being like kind of a nocturnal deck, and I like that for right now because I do think there's a lot of like moving parts, but a lot of it's hidden energy, which plays into the reading that I did the day before yesterday with the High Priestess being in the release position and not needing to get, too far ahead of ourselves or wanting to know more than is available to know right now. So the first collective message that I got was around vibrating in and out of alignment with other people as far as how we've been for the last few years. And it could go one of two ways. I feel like this has to do entirely with the people that have already been in our lives. So some people who we really like love and hold dearly, whether family, friend, or partner, you may be finding that like you have less to talk about, or like you're not really on the same page. And then there could be people that you've always been in some type of acquaintance or relationship, or relational capacity with. And now all of a sudden you have more to talk about than you ever have had in the past. And it's like, not really like the relationship has changed at all, but more like the vibration of each person has, so that the wavelengths are aligning in a new way to either move you away from certain connections or closer with the people that you didn't think were as, integral to your circle or your purpose or your passions or your life. But it actually is like a symbiotic relationship in a new way. So however you've been changing and however the people have been changing around you, we're growing apart from certain people and moving towards others. I put my candle out shuffling. Along with that, in the collective energy, it's like seeing people in a new way, and that can go either way. It can be like for the better. It can be seeing somebody in a new way, in a negative way, but for the better so that you can move away from them. Or seeing somebody as like an asset to your journey in some way that you never really considered before. And then I did get a collective energy about energetic entities and attachments, and I wanted to talk about it for a quick second because I feel like it's understood at a pretty rudimentary level for most people, and there's a lot of false information floating around about this type of thing, and it's hard to understand. So if you ever, like, kind of piggybacking off of the relational stuff with other people, say your feelings about somebody change for whatever reason, and then you're kind of like, I can't believe I didn't see this before. I can't believe I didn't see how wonderful they are, or I can't believe I didn't see how annoying they are. Something can happen that's funny cognitively, where we know that we saw things a certain way, but then if we later see them entirely differently, it's almost like, how could I ever have seen it any different than I do now? And not in all cases, but in some cases, when that thing, that previous way of thinking or doing things was, I don't know, more limited or like anxiety riddled, like if you're living in this way of being for a long time that is depressed or something, it could be an attachment. You don't have to have like a jellyfish suctioned to you, but it has to do with non-physical energy that we're encountering and picking up throughout our lives, throughout our days, and then retaining for whatever reason. And so the collective message through attachments and entities is just to give me a sec here. It has to do with sorting through the boundaries of our own energetic impact and like knowing ourselves, but also like clearing and balancing the chakras so that those things that aren't of our own energy will fall away. But collectively, there's almost this need to command autonomy again and reclaim like protection basically, and consent. Like I do not give consent to any energetic force outside of myself to leech energy from me or take energy from me. I release any energy that does not belong to me. So there's that as well. This is going to be pretty quick. I already know that it is. I just want to kind of get a little spread off of this. And what I'm going to start with is kind of how I did the last one. 3 cards for hidden energy. And then we'll go into current energy and energy to release, energy to embrace. So 3 cards in the hidden energy. Great. We have the King of Swords, the Queen of Pentacles, and the 9 of Pentacles. Now the 9 of Pentacles, I've discussed in the past, like a pre-Empress energy, like a stability and a watering of the garden and a gratitude and abundance energy. But it's also indicative of the Hermit from the Minor Arcana. And you can see that reflected in this imagery because she's by herself. And I've always loved how in the distance you can still see the house with the lights on, right? It's like the whole kingdom. I talked the other day about tending to our own kingdom. And it's not just your home or your finances or, it's your kingdom is the quality of your own mind. The quality of your own mind too. Like if somebody could hook up some fantastical Neuralink thing that put a little piece right here and then it was like a projector screen and it projected out the quality of your thoughts and your emotions, including your subconscious. It gives me this idea that this is kind of the projection of the inner world when we're in a place of feeling good in our own solitude and knowing that there's so many things to be grateful for, with more on the way. And so if this is all in hidden energy, so the King of Swords, these are just the weirdest cards, honestly. You can see this one. Monarchs in like this, the bird is a theme throughout this entire deck, so there's a lot of cards that have birds on them. But the monarch, right, it's like an unusual image. The butterflies are a symbol for transformation, and he's got this kind of wizard-like thing going on with the mask, but he still wears a crown. And the butterflies being a symbol of transformation, they're unlikely in snowy conditions. You do not see butterflies when there's snow on the ground. But like in one way, they're feeding the goslings of this nest. And in another way, they're symbolizing like breaking out of cocoons and magic, right? To defy the natural laws of what would be appropriate for this scene. Because they're a summery insect. So actually, monarchs are kind of around in multiple seasons, but my point is that the King of Swords being a part of this right now has to do with truth and clarity and exercising kind of like the will to act in the appropriate ways, as I discussed from the reading the other day. But also how the Emperor energy has been in that current energy and giving yourself a little bit more credit for what you've already done, what you're capable of, and your ability to achieve what it is that you'd like to do, even if it doesn't make sense to you, because there can be things like monarchs and snow that surprise ourselves. We will surprise ourselves within this energy, being in the hidden energy with the Queen of Pentacles as well. I love this. It's almost like the Page of Pentacles card from the other deck, where the page is mimicking the posture of the Star card. And all of these kind of go together, like Page of Pentacles, the Star, and this Queen of Pentacles here. She's kind of doing a similar thing with the gratitude of abundance that already exists in order to cultivate more out of it without force, but with a magnetic attraction, because the vibration, and I've always loved that there are like little kind of comet trails through these little dusty dots, like magic dust, you know. There's a very cosmic quality about these cards that indicates interconnectedness and how things are not isolated, and we do have a biomagnetic, bioelectric frequency with thought and intention that radiates outward from us. And then again, with like abundance and harvest, strawberries are part of her harvest and her pentacle and her stability. And so I like this because with the 2 Pentacles cards, the 9 and the Queen, there's more stability than we think available to us right now. And there's more ability to call it in faster than we think it's going to come. So let's move on from hidden energy. Actually, I'm going to pull one around obstacles in the hidden energy. What's our biggest challenge when it comes to trusting in a more stable foundation and being able to bring that about with confidence? Obstacle. It's the Moon. It's the Moon, which has to do with subconscious. So honestly, and this is another collective message that I forgot to share the other day. Okay. So with our healing journeys, or like a person, you don't even have to call it a healing journey or an ascension journey or whatever. Because again, as I've said before, I'm less in the camp of being like, I am, and I know it's kind of paradoxical because you can't really escape what you are, but I would prefer less to be like a spiritual hippie who likes the cards and the sage and the incense, more just a studier of the human condition and the laws of the universe. Because for me, the energetic stuff is non-negotiable because of the way that I see. And it's more about survival and navigating and optimizing within our ability to live and embody truth, you know, in fullness on a collective level, but also on an individual level because of our interconnectedness. And what I believe the purpose of kind of being a creator, if we acknowledge that we are, what does it mean? And kind of connecting to the love energy of creation to expand and resolve things and embody antidotes to problematic things in the world right now. So whatever you may call it, just, you know, life or the healing journey, the awakening. If you have found my videos, you know what it is that I'm referring to. And you also know how other people refer to it. So if you do resonate with awakening journey or whatever, you know, then call it that. But we arrive at plateaus where we feel really good because maybe something that we've been dealing with for a long time, we've outgrown, we've successfully moved away from it. There's always going to be more stuff though. There's always going to be more stuff. And sometimes that gets disheartening. And I don't mean like, well, our specific personalities and how we've endured things in life, they get layered up on each other. So if we were to, you know, change something really foundational in us, it can resolve and affect other parts of our personality that formed later in life. And so when you change those things and say you've been working on overcoming a memory of abuse or trauma from long ago, and you work past that and you do feel fuller and more complete and more capable of being like a confident person who isn't as fragmented, right? Because when we endure certain things and we shut certain parts of ourselves down, what ends up happening in a lot of cases is that a person will have an inner world that's different from the mask that they wear to live their life. And I'm talking about all of this because I think that, and I'm using extreme examples, doesn't have to be quite like that, but the reason why if we do a bunch of clearing out and work on ourselves and therapy and, you know, intention to heal certain things that we might have been affected by in life, then kind of the wheel of fortune turns again, and we're struggling again, it doesn't mean that we didn't do that work. It just means that life is more complicated than that. We've all had tons of things happen to us. And so the moon is indicating as an obstacle to the stability that we're trying to cultivate, the fact that it's really there, like it's in the hidden energy, but it's here. 2 pentacles, not one, but 2 prominent, grounded, abundant pentacles cards have come out to indicate that it's here for the taking. But there's unconventionality around the wielding of our power with these butterflies, right? There's also proxy benefits. That's what I kind of heard. So, and I've talked about this before, as in like sometimes life asks us to do challenging things and we don't want to, but we fail to recognize that us asserting ourselves in that way is actually going to help somebody else somehow. It's not your job to know about that, and it's not your job to take that on as additional motivation in any way. But these little, I don't know, I'm seeing this man as an alchemist, some sort of wizard. And the butterflies, you know, they're a byproduct of his actions and what he's doing, and being able to kind of defy, not logic, because he is a logical king, but like laws of nature almost, to make things happen in a not only efficient and effective, but beautiful way that benefits and feeds the goslings too. The biggest obstacle to us being able to take this where it needs to go right now, well, number one, we need to trust ourselves more. We just do, because of the Emperor in the in the current position coming out repeatedly. But the other cards, not, it's almost like straw man Emperor. I'm not accusing anybody of being like artificial or superficial on the outside right now, but I'm just saying I think that there's this like more like meaty substance, this substantial quality that will fill in, that has to do with this once we see things kind of start to crystallize, as they will through this equinox on Saturday for the rest of the month, and then into the start of October. I lost my train of thought. I had 2 open loops and I kind of lost it back there, but just returning to the moon. It is as if we've reached another one of these plateaus. And so the message that I feel it most important to communicate with that is that whatever things that you're feeling discouraged by right now, they may be entirely new, because it is parts of the subconscious that haven't been as close to the light as they are now, if that makes sense. So just like the water, right? Things will rise up, like if there's a lot of silt, and like, you know, the creatures that don't need any sunlight at all in the sea or whatever, they're deep down. These things that are rising to the surface and they're a little bit closer to, please focus on this card. Could it just do it? Thank you. The moonlight rippling off of the surface, there are aspects of our subconscious that are closer to the surface of the water, and they're catching the light in a way that they never have before. And it may make us feel a little bit doubtful or self-conscious about our own proficiency in certain things, but it just has to do with moving into this space that the universe clears for you to keep ascending and rising into an embodied version of yourself, where there is not a big separation between the inner world and your outward expression of yourself. So that's a dense message, and I think I've given it enough context, but this is going to be coming up more in the reading, is what I'm hearing. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll keep drawing cards. I've been having such a hard time getting my thoughts out today. So like, I'm sorry for like the stutters and the confusion. It is one of those days, as I've said in the past, that's like Technicolor. So just my personal clairvoyance levels are really happening today. Not even just outside with the nature and stuff. Like I was in my kitchen seeing energy meridians in the air just now. So I'm overstimulated today, but I did want to do a brief check-in. So anyway, moon with the obstacle. Things coming up, and it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing, because as I always say, again, with like the worms under the rocks, the stuff is still there. The stuff is still there. A lot of people are like, oh, therapy's not for me. I'm all good. I know myself. You can't know the subconscious. It's subconscious. It's not conscious. All right, so I am going to get current energy to embrace, and energy to release from the nocturnal deck. And that's not what it's called. I just like to call it that. right off the top, and then I'll use the norm, and then I'll take one starseed and one animal. Excuse me. If you're recently joining my videos, then I am one of those people that just hiccups like every day, multiple times a day. When I was younger, I was like that girl on the news who got the hiccups and never stopped hiccuping, to the point where I went to the doctor with my mom, and the doctor just told me that I was having a growth spurt because I've been this tall since I was like 12. But I guess on a video you can't tell how tall I am. I'm relatively tall for a woman, and I was going through a really intense growth spurt, and that caused a lot of diaphragmatic spasming as I elongated. And he said it would resolve, but it never did. So I do hiccup every day throughout the day, and it affects my readings. So it's not because I've been drinking or anything. I don't want people to think that. Oh, and I woke up at 5 a.m. today, and I was going to get my phone to record a dream because it had a collective message in it. Not a dream that I had. It was more of a dream space that I go into where I'm listening to my ancestors and they give me messages, or I'm listening to them. My Scottish Irish grannies. But I forgot to do it. I fell back asleep, so there's no information to be had from that. If my subconscious would like to bring it back up, then it will. But let's go with current energy. The Seven of Wands. Okay, so we know this card from the way it's depicted in the other deck. I wish I could just like find it. Wouldn't it be cool if it was right here? It's not. All right, I won't go fishing. I'm going to read from the book for the Seven of Wands because it's a different illustration on purpose. That's why these are so cool. It's a reimagined definition of a classical tarot in the symbols and in the meanings as a result of that. So 7 wands are spread out across the shallows, and you deftly pick your way from fence post to upturned fence post. Your path is clear, but the way is treacherous. One misstep will plunge you into the river, but you remain poised, unshakable, as your previous experiences have made you keen and adroit. You have been preparing for this moment. Your light-footed confidence will carry you through to the end. The spotlight is on you. You must be resolute in the face of adversity. Your vision is really worth something, and it is up to you to navigate the treacherous terrain that will bring it to fruition. You are nimble, skillful, and the iridescent tendrils of your idea will guide you down the correct path. Stick to the plan. If you can navigate through this challenging time, there will be no stopping you. Iridescent tendrils is what I spoke of with the magic of this, and you can see it in this one as well. It's like the current that emanates from the character, where it's like higher self. Like there's an aspect that lives in you that's entirely private, like your dreams and your goals, and the ability that one individual has to dream. It was 23:23 when I saw the clock, which is 5:5, which is 10. As within, so without, as above, so below. That ability within you comments on your impact in the world and how you choose to act, and therefore what you manifest. And also, you know, the way that you move forward because of the reticular activation system neurologically, right? It's the phenomenon that if you go out, you just bought a car, you never think about this kind of car, but now you see it everywhere. You know, so what you focus on, you will accept more of into your reality. Because like I was lying in my bed the other night, and I was looking at the wall, and there was a pinpoint of light, just a small dot of light that was just being created through something, you know, the blinds, the slats and the windows or whatever. But when I fixed my eyes right next to it, my peripheral vision did not pick up on it at all. It just looked like the wall was flat. Just like how if you're looking at the stars, if you look straight at it, it won't be nearly as bright as if you look to the stars like next to it, and then your periphery will like brighten it because of the way that we cannot see everything all at once. And what you do see, you have some say in, but it has to do with acknowledging and integrating aspects of the of the subconscious right now, especially because we're so much more equipped than we think we are to do what it is we're trying to do. And so I was looking for the card in the other deck, but if you've been with me for at least a little while, it's probably come out. It's been a theme, Seven of Wands. It has to do with perseverance and going forward. But the way that it's depicted in the other deck has these wands with no person attached, but our primary character is using his wand to like beat them back and beat them down. So it's this energy of feeling like it's just one thing after the next, and you always have to kind of keep going, but not in this like it's unjustified type of way and life is unfair, but more so like we show ourselves what we're capable of when we act and when we do things. And there's a lot of potential to fail, as it talked about. Like there's a high stakes tension with the activity of hopping from upturned post to upturned post because of the potential to make a misstep. But now is not the time. The issue with a lot of people with energy to release from 2 days ago being High Priestess is that we will keep ourselves in a hanged man position or a stagnation. If there's no clear move to make, we don't make any move at all, but we may not be able to see as much as we want. So there's a comfort zone thing coming into play here where, you know, by all accounts of the matter, your impulses are saying, you know, don't go for it if you don't know what you're going for, but you do is the thing. It goes back to the iridescent tendrils. It goes back to the entirety of this whole cycle. So I guess what's coming into my mind is like, if somebody found this video and they've never watched another video that I've made, then I would see that as being meant to be, because if you didn't pick up with me when I started posting these more consistently at the time of the solstice, maybe right now you're queuing up with the energy cycle, because whatever happened then will allow you to create the new beginning as you're meant to, because you weren't, you know, maybe you had less clearing to do, who knows? But I don't know. My point in saying that is that it doesn't have to be, again, with like how I want to say liquid. This is all very malleable, the way these things play out and the ways that it can be really redundant, and the micro and the macro cycles within it. But I'm going to keep going. Energy to embrace is the Ace of Chalices. This is so beautiful. I've never seen the Ace of Cups in this deck before, but it's, yeah, I love this card. And I love that, like, with the multi-tieredness, it's like a little bit of love goes a long way. You know, there's a trickle down effect. It's the notion of pay it forward. So the energy to embrace is emotionality, and a new beginning and a new lease on life, and therefore love, and the Ballad of Chalices. I am going to read it because it's going to say something different than what I'm used to. A glimmering fountain draws water from the deep and thrusts it upward. As it courses down each echelon, incandescent dew gently mists around it, falling softly back into the river. Autumn leaves fall as the moon goddess of emotion and intuition rises full in the background. When the Ace of Chalices presents itself, some deep wellspring of emotional force is bubbling up inside or around you. It promises the beginnings of an intimate connection guided by the heart. Open yourself to love and compassion. Draw deep feelings to the surface and let them shine. Okay, well, that's even more on par than I anticipated, because it's from this deck. It's not the conventional Ace of Chalices, but look, these are the things that we've been suppressing, whatever it is. And going back to me saying, like, say this is your first reading with me, maybe this is what you, where you would need to pick up with my videos, right? Because all the other stuff, there are certain themes that drag on for a while, but then they'll drop off. And for me, this one feels like it's coming back around from an earlier part in the cycle, because we're leveling up again, right? With every new plateau, it's not like, oh, you made it, congrats, you did the thing. There's always just going to be new levels to engage with, which is why it's very important to be in a state of constant departure while always arriving, or at least be able to have your, you know, your peace of mind while you're not a perfect person. having every experience you want to have. It's all about the, journey is the destination type thing. But it's talking about things coming up from within us. And I think that this is a pretty automatic process right now. So the message with this being in the embrace position, but this being in the obstacle, is just feeling whatever feelings. And it did talk about connection, right? Loving connection. So bringing it back to the collective message that I started the video with, seeing people completely differently than we used to, for better or for worse, being in a completely different headspace. And I mentioned energetic attachments too, because sometimes we connect with people who have their own energetic attachments, and you can inherit that and carry it with them. And so I didn't really see the connection with that before, but I'm being told now that that's part of it. So having a new understanding of why things have functioned for us up until this point, it's a fairly swordsy thing. It's a fairly swordsy thing to do if you're thinking about psychoanalysis of your own patterning and dynamics. However, anything that's swordsy and mental and analytical starts from this process of the emotions. Because if you think about, say this card, the Ace of Cups in this picture, was a small animation. The water would never stop moving, The water would never stop moving. The water in this card would never stop moving. This would be glimmering and glistening, and you would never be able to get that body of water or emotions to sit still. It never will. And what I love about the depiction with the Ace of Chalices here is that from where it comes, it returns, It's like it's pulling the water from a body of water, and it's cascading through all these echelons, it called them, and it returns back to the body of water. This is why when we think about people, we're all different people. We're all different waves in the ocean, or we're all different droplets of water. That means we're all, the ocean, but we don't see it. We think that the droplets of water don't touch, or communicate, when really, it is one thing, the water. So for us on an individual level, there are things that are happening emotionally right now that we're not necessarily ascribing properly. Let me get some clarification on that. Let me get some clarification on that message alone, and I'll take it from the top of the deck of top and bottom of the other one. Okay, hang on. Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about the process of sorting out healing, really. Healing energetically is different than psychotherapy healing, but for me, because of my background and my overlaps, I tend to think of them on the same level. When you heal something psychologically and you do that unwinding and untwisting, you can heal energetically because you can physically also unroot the stuckness. And so, as clarification for ascribing emotions, and by that I mean assigning in our minds, this is a subconscious thing that we do. Why are we feeling the way we're feeling, right? Sometimes you kind of justify it either by placing blame elsewhere or blaming the self or validating. It doesn't have to be unhealthy. It could be very healthy and validated, but the message that's coming through, we have the Fool and the Four of Swords to clarify. So it's because this is a new cycle and it takes a new way of doing things. And it is swordsy because we have to think about the things that are returning once more to be cleared away. That's going to mean different things for every person, but there's going to be new things, new ways of looking at the same old situations, or new ways of feeling about the same old people. There's a reason for that. And we're going to find that by doing the reflection in a contemplative, meditative space. But the reason why we need to go into the contemplative, meditative space isn't as simple as saying, because this is how you sort through emotions and you reflect and you think about them and you try to open up an inner dialogue with your own inner monologue. It's also because it's a completely new cycle. So when you get used to certain people's behavior or seeing things certain ways, it tends to dictate how you're going to go about it. And this is not the time to do that. because we can inflect and inject, we can tamper with outcomes, right? When you hold an expectation, you're asking to be fulfilled, you know, not necessarily disappointed, but, and I'm not like saying that that's something we can control. I think it's just the nature of how we handle situations that feel familiar to us. But I'm going to put these back, and I'm going to put them back in the middle of the deck, and I'm being told to look at this card. It's the Ace of Cups. So here it is again. This is all about, ooh, okay. Okay, so for the past few readings, we've been talking more about the new beginning, the new cycle, as far as pentacles go, and major arcana stuff. So divine judgment, Wheel of Fortune, having more stability, and of course, 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Cups. These cards have come out, but the Ace of Cups is Wheel of Fortune underneath it. The Ace of Cups is presenting in two ways here, just to reiterate that all of this, like, more dense, whatever's making you feel uncomfortable the most right now in life, maybe your attention needs to be there, because we've been keeping ourselves apart from true, honest, genuine connection and love. So we have been focusing on the pentacles of it all, or the stability, or how it's going to look. But do not forget to think about how it's going to feel. And aside from being like a, well, don't forget, it's just going to be a natural thing where we're going to be wanting to think about how things actually make us feel, because of this kind of beautiful phenomenon that's happening with the energetics, where we're going to be resonating out of vibration with certain individuals and resonating into alignment of vibration with other people in ways that might have surprised us 5 years ago, you know. I don't know, maybe there's somebody who you're like, I would never, ever, ever date them. And all of a sudden you want to. So that was kind of a tangential situation. Oops. It was the Ace of Wands, but that was just my bad shuffling. For energy to embrace with the Ace of Cups, that was just a little bit of a tangential situation, but I'm still going to pull energy to release from this deck before we move on. Current energy, Seven of Wands. Energy to embrace, Ace of Chalices. Energy to release is the Wheel of Fortune. And in this deck, we've got snakes and peacock. Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, I mean, it's giving me High Priestess in the release position from 2 days ago, because Wheel of Fortune, again, is divine timing and trying to know, like, well, if I knew when something was going to happen, I'd be able to adjust my approach. Yeah, probably, but that's not how it's going to go. So if you don't start to kind of like get more serious about your commitment, also playing small. I don't think I recorded a video yesterday or the day before. I did not post it. Yeah. Just being in a place where we actually have the ability to express ourselves in a really embodied way. And when I say express, I don't mean necessarily verbally communicating with others. I just mean like the embodiment. It's this new embodiment where it's like, we don't know when it came about. Like, have I been changing for the past 5 months, for the past 5 years? Who knows? But all of a sudden, we're different than we used to be. And the universe is actually trying to elevate you even more. And so if you put on the brakes because you're like, oh, well, I'm leaving the comfort zone, and don't keep, you know, maybe the journey gets more treacherous. That's not the time to back down. It's the time to be like, wait a minute. I have an alchemical ability to make the impossible happen if I believe that I can. And I've said this before, but I can't not be cheesy, because cheesy things are correct. Life is pretty cheesy in a beautiful way. It's just all about how you relate to what it is that is being said. I hate to think about using cliches and then it turning people away. But what I'm trying to say is that when we're inclined to put the brakes on, it can be fight or flight, and it can be protective, and it can be important to heed that. But more often than not right now with the collective energies, it's out of habit. And it's like we're inclined to press the brake when you should be pressing the gas, because Wheel of Fortune is here and we don't want to press the gas because we're trying to see the Wheel of Fortune before we go to where we're going. But the direction that we're going in is heart-led. And that's why there's a couple more things at the surface than there used to be, catching the light where the discomfort comes in. So there's a few like key messages within that. What's a clarifier for the Wheel of Fortune in the energy to release position? It's the 10 of Cups. And I think that it just, whatever direction we're going in now, especially with the 2 Ace of Cups coming in, it might not make sense to you, okay? Think about 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, looking back and telling somebody else the story of how you met your spouse or something. And it's such a crazy story because you would have never, if you try to control too tightly how something's going to go right now, you're not going to end up where you're meant to be. That's it. That's the whole message. But with particular regard to emotional fulfillment, because it's going to be different. The Fool came out earlier, a leap of faith. This is that leap of faith, but unfortunately, he's got a few leaps of faith to make. So walk with faith right now around how things are changing for you. So I'd like to get some incoming energy. 3 cards incoming. Well, it's the Emperor. Yeah, that's good. I can tell you why. One more, please. Just go with those 2. That is what my angels said. Okay. About 20 minutes ago, I was talking about how this Emperor has been more of a straw man thing, but guess what? It's coming in for real because of the ability now. It's talking about this deep, bubbling flow of emotions that's naturally always coming up within us, to bring more things to the surface, to be caught in the light and shown to us about our truth. In whatever way that resonates for you. And maybe the current energy is like believing, being really on board with a new type of expression. But what I like about this is that the well, being able to kind of with what I talked about with like this, whether or not you talk to people about what you would like to do in life or how you're moving and why, it's still real. A lot of us want other people in on something to make it more real. And that's fine. That's totally cool. I love getting people jazzed up about my ideas because then I'm like, yay. It matters. They care too. And the shadow side of that is that if people have a lot of critique or criticism, then I'll drop things and not do them. I'm a lot less like that now because I'm very motivated from within with my own inner dialogue, with my own inner world and my passions and why I do the things that I do. But the spiritual composition of our growth right now is finally starting to like click into this more embodied different way of being where we have the confidence to take these leaps of faith. So if you are resonating with what I'm saying so far in terms of the discomfort or feeling like, I don't know, like with that plateau, like, well, I just went through all this stuff. I don't want to have to keep, you're so much more equipped and ready for what it is that you want to bring in. Then you think, because of like the work that the universe has been doing and clearing behind the scenes for you this whole time. Because when you set your intention, the universe is like, okay, great. And I'm also, this is such a silly thing to see. There's an episode of SpongeBob where like it's basically inside his brain and it's a bunch of mini SpongeBobs like running around like, okay, boss, like we have to like work up the whatever. And it's like, I don't know why the universe, as soon as you set intention and declare it and want to move in that direction, it's like the universe, little SpongeBob setting out to execute, and we don't see the result of that in the same way that it takes place, especially because of Wheel of Fortune energy, right? Sometimes when things go wrong, it is the best, and sometimes we never know that this is how things went. but something that could make us at first encounter feel very inconvenienced is one of the biggest, pinball wedges when it's all said and done that led something to be able to come about. All right, I'd like to get a card for I'd like to get a card for the moon being in the obstacle. Yeah, just clarify that first. That's what we'll do. All right, I'm going to take that, but I'm going to put these back and get one more. That came out as the 5 of Cups. The moon as the obstacle, please. I mean, it already makes tons of sense with that because that came out the other day, but it's 5 of Cups is crying over spilt milk and feeling disappointed. I don't want that many. All right, I'll talk about it and then I'll get top and bottom of the deck, actually. So, with this, again, going back to 9 of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, King of Swords, that's strong, stable energy. The moon was our challenge to that. And specifically, as we progressed, found out it is what we haven't realized before, but when it comes to an emotional level, because we're leading towards 10 of Cups, Ace of Cups, a new beginning that's like more of the real deal. And I would never, just given the fact that this is collective general energy reading, go as far as to say like the next person you meet is going to be your lifetime partner, because everybody's situation is different. But it's almost like the potential is there to have that be the case. But it's taking this confidence out of us. And so if this is the obstacle, it's because we're using, and remember how the Fool came up to clarify this. We're using old logic and experiences to inform things, and it's just not productive. And so we're like, everybody's different when it comes to liking structure or rules or routine. Some people get really, really bored with that type of thing and they need stimulation and change in order to stay engaged with anything. But regardless of what kind of person you are, we do make sense of things and sort things in our brains based on patterns and experiential integration with like object permanence, right? As if you're a baby and we learn to understand that just because something disappears doesn't mean it ceases to exist. But there's almost like a reverse, there's an unlearning that we need to do around expectation and disappointment and our own levels of like self-belief and confidence, because sometimes like if something is a pattern in your life and it's never been real for you, even if it's real for other people, and you see people in lovely relationships, or you see people with great success, you'll always provide yourself a reason why you can't have that. Well, maybe not. Maybe you're optimistic and you're working towards it and you believe in yourself. That's great. That's where you should be. Sometimes it can be both, right? Sometimes we still work for something, but we're holding ourselves back from manifesting it as quickly as we could because we doubt that we can actually accomplish it to the degree that we want. And if we cannot accomplish it to the degree that we want, then we would rather not do it at all because we don't want people to think that we're foolish or naive. I can be very guilty of this myself, but I reached a point where I would rather try very hard and fail than not try at all. And have to consistently remind myself that that's, a fine thing to do. It's not necessarily embarrassing or shameful. It's in fact the only way that I will accomplish things, to try and risk horrible failure. So I said I was going to do top and bottom to clarify. Wait a minute. I did shuffle, didn't I? With the Fool, clarifying the moon and that discomfort, I had the 4 of Swords, but here it is again. I think I shuffled. Maybe I didn't. And the Queen of Swords. And so the message that I'm getting with this is that sometimes so because it has to do with how we want, maybe this is not going to be true for everybody. Maybe this will just resonate for a couple people who watch this message in the future. But the biggest read that I'm getting off of it is that it does, or it has in the past, had to do with how we want other people to see us or how we do not want other people to see us. And I mean, in general, that shouldn't really be our concern, but it is human nature to, not want to be seen in negative ways. And if that's the case, then we would, ideally strive to fix that or not do things in the future if it led to us being viewed in a way that we don't feel is true to who we actually are and how we are, like misunderstandings, in that dejectedness. And so there's something here around masculine and feminine healing too, and the polarities within people, because with the Queen of Swords, she's still feminine energy, but she has the sword and she speaks truth and she gets things done and she knows what she wants, and other people disagreeing does not make her feel lesser about herself, but she also does not smite them down. Like Zeus. I don't know why I saw Zeus smiting somebody down with a lightning bolt. If this reflection, okay, so let me back up and start here. Emotions bubbling up, things catching the light that maybe haven't had the chance from other clearing and other cycles and other things that we've been doing for the past however long, they're coming up to be noticed. And we may have to go within and think about what that means for us, and also put a new lens that's only become available to us recently on the lessons from the past. Maybe we did a lot of healing in the past and we thought we learned the lessons, but there's a new vantage point that was never available before and it's available now. And so there's nothing that's not strong about that process. There's no weakness in self-reflection and integration. And that's what I got out of this, is like we may have some aversion because of this 5 of Cups to this process, because you didn't make a misstep. It's just that vantage point or level of criticality on our own journey wasn't available to us yet. And I'm getting a huge hot rush in my left ear. Like it's getting really warm. And I've said this in the past, you might see me touch my ears throughout the readings. If you inadvertently touch your ear, it might mean that guidance or energy or your higher self, or however you want to talk about what you experience, is trying to send you a message. So if you find yourself touching your ear, maybe you had an itch, whatever, you can always explain it away. If you find yourself doing that, maybe just sit and clear your mind for a sec and see what drops into your head, because you might be getting a message. But for me right now, the left side of the body, right, physiologically is associated with the feminine. And so there's this deep feminine intuition that a lot of people possess, male or female. Being able to trust and rely on the intuition and see it as a really deep strength in a way that we haven't before, and listen to the things that come through that. And I actually feel like a lot of people will know what it's like. Probably everybody knows what it's like when you have a really keen, spot-on intuition about something, even if it's like, I don't know, one person being like, can you guess what my zodiac sign is? And then you don't say it and they tell you and it's exactly what you thought. Or, if it's like something more critical, like in business or in something, and you feel like, or in school, right? You think you know the answer, but you didn't raise your hand and you should have. We're over the playing small part. That's what I said earlier. Like we find the plateau, we master the plateau, and then we like being masters, so we stay on the plateau, but the wheel of fortune is going to keep turning, so the plateau will start to crumble away. And I also just want to point out how his journey is through water, not wanting to fall through the water into the water. But the water in the tarot, it represents emotions. And so I like the balance. We already have the pentacles, right, and the hidden energy. The stability is here. We just don't see it yet because we feel the instability of being in an emotionally turbulent / transitional time. Doesn't mean the stability isn't here, because what's incoming is the ability to stand like fully in a power that's based off of having good creative ideas and access to the higher self. The kite and the anchor, the expansion and the groundedness all at once, which is hard to maintain. It's hard to hold. I've talked about my own journey in the past and how that was kind of like my biggest thing is like I had a pretty large spiritual awakening in 2012, but the next 10 years were all over the place because I didn't expand into that in a perfect way. I kind of shut down and expanded, and I've talked about medication before as well, playing a role within that. But you can't avoid the emotions. He's moving forward even though there's a lot of emotional waters present. And the fear would be to fall in and be eclipsed by it. But at the end of the day, I almost want to pull out one of these cards. There's a huge portion of this deck that takes place in this beautiful lagoon, you know? It's the Two of Chalices, the Three of Chalices. What he would realize if he fell in is that water is actually a pretty nice temperature. There's a couple other people having mimosas down the way. He could just paddle up to them, you know? There's a place within this emotional depths that connection can take place through two deeper levels. And I mean that to say connection to ourselves and our truths, but also our ability to form honest partnerships and collaborations. That's just too many. It's just too many. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Thank you. One card. Yeah. You see, falling into the water, falling in love, falling into the truth of the depth of situations is not as scary as you think it is. And this could just be you and your higher self, you know? So this is a longer video than I thought I would do. This is like a thick message. Like it's the viscosity of molasses, because there's layers to this, and it's a circle. The story it goes around and around and around, you know, the stability, the swords, the emotions. No matter which way you slice it, this is a collective energy reading. I just think that if you were to listen to this and be like, that is not at all what I'm going through, then it just hasn't bubbled up yet. You know what I mean? There's a part of this that's like incredibly constant throughout life. Like perhaps this is the most timeless reading I've ever done because this is what it's like. But right now in particular, it's a little more treacherous. It's a little more deep than we're used to. But because there's other people involved, how I started this message off, the collective message that I got about seeing old relationships in new ways, having dormant things within us that have held us back finally come up to be released or reimagined, right? Maybe we thought we healed from something, but we need to do it again. That's normal, by the way. People always say this, healing isn't linear. It's not. It's not. Sometimes I think about something that I haven't thought about in a very long time that used to upset me a lot. And I get really upset again, and I cry, and I let it go. Doesn't mean that I do that every day, and it still holds me back and affects me, but I don't know why I said that. That might be resonant to somebody because you might be reacting to something that's coming up for you again. And you should never be like, well, I should be over this by now, because who knows, you know? And there's been weird things like that for me too, where it happens. And then I happen to notice that it's the exact date on the calendar that it was, 5 years ago when something happened. So there's a cyclical nature to healing as well, where there are triggers that kind of unbeknownst to the conscious mind that might coincide. So here is the harmony in the partnership, though, that I was actually just trying to get the deck to provide me, because it is a validation towards the 10 of Cups that came out, the double Ace of Cups. This is just two aces. 1 and 1 makes 2. Oh, that's super beautiful. What's the question I want to ask to wrap this up? I do want to add to, oopsie. So the Emperor and the Well, I'd like to get a third card to help pull that together. Simply because the Emperor energy has moved from the current energy to the incoming energy. But like I said before, in the current energy, it was kind of like we're having a better time expressing ourselves in this way. Now it's going to come in and we're just going to be it. We're not going to be as thinking about it as much, but ideally, and I think it's going to be the result of having gone to a place that maybe we haven't gone before, or going to a place of healing in a new way than we've done in the past, because we're in a new place. We're in a new place. Clarify the Emperor and the Well in the incoming energy. I mean, it's 4, and I would have preferred to not get 4 all at once, but it's the King of Swords, and he already came out. He already came out in this reading, and so did the Queen of Swords, 10111 on the clock when I looked up. It has to do with the fact that for me, if the Queen of Swords is out, the King of Swords already came out, the Two of Cups is out. There's so much partnership energy here, because the Swords, Queen and King, they mean their own thing, but they're also a masculine, feminine, divine counterpart pair and balance. Right? That's them. Off the clock. I'm also just getting a lot of information today. I already said that. Like, I'm having a hard time articulate myself in the way that I usually do because I have a lot of activity. Thank goodness I don't have actual work to do today, because I would be so scattered. And so me talking about this being formally kind of like this espoused self, this aspirational thing, it's really here now, right? It's embodied because it's balanced. Also talking previously, probably 30 minutes ago now in the reading, I said there is some type of masculine feminine balancing happening within ourselves so that we can come together with somebody in a more healed way. Even if you have a lot of healed, a healthy expression of, masculinity and femininity, by nature of being with somebody in a partnership for a long time, those polarities will inevitably kind of rove. They'll migrate a little bit. This is why attraction can go out of partnerships over time. And it's also why they say you shouldn't do business with your lover, because you can relate to somebody in one way, but then it might compromise the other way. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I've heard that. People say that. So also clarifying, as I asked, we have the Nine of Cups, which is emotional fulfillment, satisfaction, bounty, stability. And I love it because we've got the Nine of Pentacles and we've got the Nine of Cups. We had the 10 of Cups and we have the 10 of Pentacles. I mean, you couldn't ask for more stable and abundant cards to come out in a reading. But the other card that came out, for clarification, is the Eight of Pentacles. So it is that dedication and hard work. And I'm actually seeing these guys as being pretty much in the same camp right now. So these leaps of faith, somebody might not look over at you and be like, you are being so bold and courageous in your life right now. You might literally be sitting at a computer. But it is, oh my gosh, it is the everyday tasks that we show up to in a more conscious, reflective, honest way that's going to get us to all of this. I don't have the resolution that I'm seeking, and I'll know it when I get it. So we're going to keep going just a little bit here. Two of Cups I'm going to put out so that we can kind of evolve this. Advice, please. Advice for the collective, given all of this right now. 3 cards came out, and I'll get... Nope, that's it. Yeah. So the Eight of Cups has come out, and this is all about leaving emotionally vacant situations, or desiring to go somewhere else emotionally, even if you're not leaving something behind. I mean, you always are, right? Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. It's pretty on par with what I've talked about, and it doesn't need more explanation. But what else? With advice, moving forward passionately and quickly. So now, in addition to that Eight of Pentacles being that kind of day in, day out application of the self in order to move things forward, we've got, this is sort of unbridled, right? You could imagine, like I'm actually seeing from Lord of the Rings, when there are those shadow walkers, the guys on the horses who are, what are they called? They're not Dementors, because that's Harry Potter. The scary riders, whatever. Their horses, those shadow figures with the capes and the hoods, and it's all black and you can't see a face, and they have sketchy hands and stuff that look like claws. Their horses are like foaming at the mouth and like intense. That's kind of a dark thing, but I'm seeing it as like so fired up to be able to handle this continuation outside of the comfort zone. And it's in contrast to these energies, very much so, because both of these energies have to do with contemplating, you know, the moon, the intuition, the truth. I said my left ear was getting hot. Like the feminine clairaudience, regardless of gender, it's all energy. The feminine clairaudience, though, of knowing and hearing the truth within you, from within you, it requires like a slowed down pensiveness to access. But then, like I said before, if you meditate in silence, that's great. But you have to take the show on the road. You have to be able to perform for yourself, right? And your sanity under conditions where it's harder to do that. So I'm not saying don't take the time out that you need to be able to make sense of what you're going through. Don't blindly soldier ahead. I do think it's just going to be coming more quickly to us, though, so that we feel like we can, even though we want to press the brakes, hit the gas. Because the Wheel of Fortune is the release position. I'll get one more clarifier for that, and then I'll end the reading. What was this? Oh, I didn't talk about this. Let me get a clarifier for this, because this is the Five of Wands. Yeah, the Nine of Wands. So what we're releasing is... All right. I'm actually getting a different message right now. What's really interesting, regardless of how old people are, and this is just observation, but it's just a thing. So I think people will resonate with it if they're intuitive or inquisitive about the nature of humans and the people that they tend to overlap with personally or professionally. A lot of people just gripe and complain from an ego-based perspective when we regardless of age, tend to relate to one another like close to the home. Like if you're complaining, or if you hear two people complaining, it's because it's about how it affects them, because they're affected. But this can be two people, you know, middle-aged people who are wonderful at their jobs and intelligent and talented and effective. Yet when it comes to having compassion for another party, it's like it's one of these things that a lot of humans just don't naturally start to do, right? Unburden the other party from, not unburden them from fault, but include them, right? It's easy to be like, well, they did wrong and we don't get it and we've been inconvenienced. But I mean, really, it wasn't just, there's no like us against them when it comes to this again, right? We're all droplets in the sea. I mean, it is this kind of, to exploit someone else is to exploit yourself, to take advantage, you can't pull one over on the universal energies through interconnectedness because of karma. And again, it's just a Sanskrit word that means action. There is a call and response in the void, always. And you are the call. And you're someone else's response. And so my point in saying this is like, we're above, at this point, that petty engagement with just trying to like put things in their place. To like, you can choose to listen to people talk in really negative ways, that's not very like, it's not really taking a higher perspective or trying to see things through like a more compassionate lens, you can listen to that, but and maybe not love it, but tolerate it, but still choose not to contribute to it. That's not what they do. That's not what the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords would do. And they are about truth and clarity, right? And so if justice needs to be served, they'll serve it. But they don't stand around gossiping with the people in the courtyard. They're above that. They really are. I love how they both have birds on their shoulders too. I'm just thinking about that because I was in the pet store the other day with my friend doing pet store things. Telling her about how when I was a kid and I went to my brother's AAU basketball games, one of the mothers of one of his teammates had a cockatiel on her shoulder all the time. It just went everywhere with her. And it spoke. It was a very smart bird. And these birds, you know, they lived for like 40 years. It was just her pal. And it sat there. And as a child, I was absolutely enamored by that. And I was like, I will be like you one day. And I would like a rose-breasted galah. It's a kind of cockatoo that hails from Australia. And they're pink. And I'm going to name her Enya. But I'm not going to get into that relationship until I can sustain that bird with all the attention that it deserves, because they have kind of a separation anxiety. And if you try to integrate one, they're very, needy in particular, integrate one into your home too soon, where like if it can't see you with its eyes in a direct sight line for most of the day, then it'll become very distressed and start like throwing its feces around and stuff. So we don't want that. But I do feel connected to this energy with the bird on the shoulder. Little side note. Basically, there's a certain part of the inner child that can remain unhealed that never goes past me against them. So kind of like ego primitivism is like me against you, and then people ascend to us against them, where you get nationalism and stuff. Instead of seeing people as part of a whole. And there's this advice to release the idea that you are pitted against other people, or other people see themselves as pitted against you. Because if somebody deeply believes that you are their enemy, but you don't have any issue with them, it's like how people say, don't throw fuel on the fire. You cannot do anything about the fact that somebody might see you as their arch nemesis. If you try to explain why you're not, then you're engaging with that. If you embody something that is like aligned in truth and they still view you that way, then that's kind of on them. And something that they haven't healed because it's your light irritates their demons type thing. I'll get one more to clarify this and I'll cut the deck to do it. Yeah. You see how these are all Wands cards. So we have 5 of Wands, 9 of Wands, and here's the 6 of Wands. And this is the clarifier for this kind of defensive conflict. And with the 9 of Wands, 9 the other day, yes, it can be a little defensive, but it's also for good reason. We want to protect ourselves and protect the things that we've worked hard to create, protect ourselves from things going wrong in ways that they might have gone wrong in the past. But they're all speaking the same language because wands, okay? So the victory and the success exists away from petty conflicts and being in any type of me versus you or you versus me situation. You can skip to the resolution. I genuinely believe, and like talking the other day about my friend saying like, how do you have a genuine optimism about the way that things are right now, given all of this like really weird, scary, unknown stuff in the world? And it's like, because of transmutation with emotion and energy, it's not that I don't get like really, really angry, really, really sad. It's that I release that. It gives me goosebumps to even say that, because I do get deeply sad and deeply angry about things. But that all becomes, where does it go, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It gets changed into one form or another. And if I just, I don't know, expressed it without transmuting it, I wouldn't really show up in the way that I want to in the world. I let all of that fuel my embodiment of being the antidote to the things that I see are wrong, even more, you know? It's just more energy. There's a funny meme, I'll put it on the screen. It says, if you think about me, I gain an extra superpower, right? It's how people say, like, the haters, you're still focused. Oh my gosh, it's a lyric from Love Me or Hate Me, Still an Obsession. Lady Sovereign. I haven't heard that song since legitimately 2005. When you see things for and through multiplicity and having certain things be true at the same time and being able to expand your worldview to include, you know, things that you previously may thought could not coexist at all, trying to make sense and work through the cognitive dissonance of all of that, and you end up at this place where you can see things from a higher perspective, you take things less personally because you understand who you are and how you affect certain things for the most part, and you let what you see from that higher perspective be a healing agent to the way that you can, you know, correct your dynamic, where once you were triggered, you are now able to not take something personally, and maybe they'll never know, you know. There are so many ways to sift through this part of what I'm talking about, and this kind of came at the whole end of the messaging, but the most important takeaway is that, I mean, the advice came through as far as transcending conflict, especially the gossipy. Like, conflict is one thing, right? There's healthy conflict and healthy resolution of conflict. But what's lower than that is when people just act mean for sport. It's like childlike bullies, right? Some adults retain a fairly childlike bullyishness about them because of their own unresolved stuff. So, like, you will not come by success and recognition and Six of Wands and victory if you're still with people who are like that. That's not cool. It's not productive to speak unkindly about people, even if you're right. It's different to speak unkindly than it is to speak critically. I'll make that distinction too. You're not a doormat to anybody or anything, but the defensiveness and the conflicts around things, we're just above it. And it's not because, like, I'm above it all, I'm better than you. No, it's because you understand from a higher perspective why everything that is wrong in the world and bothers you, like, you can hold that and have all the emotions that you have, and then you take that and you let that mobilize you into what it is that you want to do. And for me, every single time it brings me back to having more sympathy, empathy, compassion, and love in my heart for all people and myself as we go through this crazy thing called life. So that was the weirdest, most scatterbrained reading I've done in a while. Thanks for sitting with me if you did. And I guess I'll do a Saturday one, an equinox reading. I have a feeling that I'm going to get tons of messages for the next few days. So if I do not come back on till like Monday, it's because I'm still gathering information. And I'm shocked that I'm so ungrounded because I spent a long time in nature yesterday. But I need it. I need it right now. And I'm also getting that is a collective message. So if you kind of feel untethered, then I promise the woods will help you. The grass will help you. By the way, if you did not know this, it does make a very big difference to remove shoes or like shirt. Say you're going to lie on the grass. To have skin on grass contact will be better than having shirt to grass contact. To have bare feet on grass or earth is better, and it makes a difference. It really does. So for the amount of time that you would have to be near a tree or hug a tree fully clothed or lie on the earth fully clothed, the amount of time you would have to spend with the barrier physically between you and being able to synchronize your energy with that grounded, Mother Earth presence, and also release. When you connect with Earth, you can transmute a lot of that dense heaviness back to Earth. And I was saying, like, the amount of time that it takes when you have a barrier between you and Earth is longer than the amount of time that it takes when you like take your shoes off, for example. It still happens, it still works, it's still good. I'm not suggesting you go walking naked, right? But if you have access to do that safely, that would be cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep rambling if I don't stop. So hope everyone's well and have a great weekend. Okay, bye.